Hi guys. Hope that this video gets submitted. Hope it's a decent video. I'm going to talk about my New York Giants in this video. I've been having trouble with the software for a while. Throat is a little bit dry. Pat Shurmur. This is my thoughts on Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur was a safe hire by the New York Giants after the disaster of Ben McAdoo. I'm going to talk about the positives first of Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur is better at communicating with the media than Ben McAdoo. He's not excellent by any means. He's a little bit dry, but he at least gives you at least some sense of an answer. He at least treats them with a little bit of respect. He's not the best, most warm personality. He's not a warm personality really at all. He's not a cold personality, but he's certainly not warm. He's more to the cold and dry side. He's just boring. He seems irritated. He hates getting interviewed by the media. And his press conference leave a lot to be desired if you're Pat Shurmur. Now, when you look at the New York Giants and I watch Pat Shurmur, the positives are that he at least runs the ball, and at least the running game has been better. And if he just stuck to the game plan in the second half, we would be having a totally different discussion right now than what transpired. But we're here. We're at 3-8, and Pat Shurmur blew a game. The thing I hate about Pat Shurmur is that the 2-point conversions this year have just been terrible. Whether that has been the Atlanta game, whether that was the Eagles game, just dumb decisions to go for 2 points when it's not necessary at all. And, the fact that you got a false start or offsides on the Eagles means absolutely nothing, because psychologically, if you put the Eagles in a 7-0 hole, you're able to just kind of like straighten the ship out on the Eagles, where you're up 7-0, it's not 6. When a team's down 6, they're like, okay, we get a touchdown, and we get the lead. So Pat Shurmur, offensively, he's been doing better, okay? He's not Ben McAdoo. He's a lot better than Ben, because you're at least, it's not shotgun, you're at least seeing them run the ball in the middle of the field, okay? The game against the Buccaneers was really flawless offense, okay? The game against the 49ers, the first half against the Eagles, the Atlanta game in the second half, the Carolina game, had some really nice play action, and the offense has shown some strength a little bit this year. Shown a little bit of strength, okay? The Texans game. But at the same time, you also have real lapses. The Redskins game was an atrocious offensive performance. The Eagles game, the Saints game, I think, was a terrible game. People give us credit in that game for only losing by a couple. That was he played to lose that entire game, okay? So I gave a little bit of positives, is that, Pat Shurmur's still dealing with a quarterback that's a little bit old right now. He's still getting the offensive scheme down. Sterling Shepard isn't physical enough to play on the outside, where we might need a more physical receiver. We've been a patchwork offensive line unit. Jamon Brown is finally playing. We finally have continuity in the offensive line. We're starting to move people off the football. And that Eagles game should have been a win, and we should really be celebrating because this team has been playing really well. But there is breaking news that I am here to address right now. And that's the coaching malpractice in the second half of only giving Saquon, I believe, 5 touches in the second half. The point that I'm going to say to you guys about Pat Shurmur, this is, to some it might not be a big deal, but to me this is a huge deal, okay? Pat Shurmur and Odell Beckham, that relationship is not getting any better. Odell Beckham is the highest paid player on your team. He's the most talented player on your team. He's one of the most vocal players on your team. He's the biggest celebrity, most popular player on the football team. He is your football team. He's really important to the team, morale-wise, because his behavior in the post-game interview sessions resonates with the fan base a lot, okay? What he says carries a lot of weight and value. And he is not on board with Pat Shurmur and this coaching staff. And Odell Beckham was completely 1,000% correct in his commentary. Just like Beckham was right about them not airing out the ball. Does not mean that it was the right thing to say. But I actually appreciated it. Because as Giants fans, like, Eli Manning is to that point of royalty where we're not going to, look at Eli Manning. And when someone, says something skeptical about Eli Manning, it's just not going to resonate that nicely with certain people around these parts. And that's honestly fine. But, I've admitted that Eli has looked, slower and his play has deteriorated, and he's looked like an average, not very good quarterback, and he's been up and down this season. I mean, I got to give him credit for at least pulling it together out of the bye week, and I did not see him playing well against the Bucs or the 49ers, and I did not see him having some really good moments against the Eagles. I was wrong in that capacity, and I got to give Shurmur and Eli credit. But Beckham insulted Eli in that interview, which is terrible. And I haven't changed my opinion on that interview, even with hindsight and even reconsidering anything. All right, but let's talk about Pat Shurmur, and let's talk about what's going on. When you look at the best coaches in the NFL, what do they all have in common with their players? They all have collaboration skills. Sean McVay is an expert psychologist. He is a brilliant, brilliant person at understanding what a player is going through and what a player wants to do. And understanding how to talk to a player, understanding when to give them rest, understanding when to prop them up, and when to be critical of them. Pat Shurmur has demonstrated no people skills with this organization. It's been a train wreck from Sterling Shepard to Odell Beckham to Landon Collins on the sideline flipping over the tent, from Eli Manning getting dragged through the media. Shurmur's been way too silent. He has yet to control this locker room. And listen, Ben McAdoo was so terrible, okay? So Shurmur has done a better job at times than Ben. I mean, the interview against Carolina where he said finito to the Odell comments was good, but at the same time, he hasn't talked to Odell. And I hate the question in the media where he's like, talk to Odell Beckham about, the play calls. He has no relationship with Odell Beckham. Remember today in the media Q&A, Pat Shurmur said in the Q&A, Pat Shurmur said that you need to talk to Odell Beckham about his feelings. That is not how you want your organization to be run. You want the coach and the stars to be aligned and thinking in identical pathways. Look at the Chicago Bears and how much they respect Matt Nagy and how much they respect Vic Fangio and that staff. And when you look at Matt Nagy, he has made Mitchell Trubisky into such a talented player where Mitchell Trubisky just trusts that everything's going to be perfect on the field because he believes that his coach, he believes the roadmap is perfect and that his coach is laying out a perfect course of action for him to go on. Jared Goff, the collaboration with Jared Goff and Sean McVay, even Sean McVay and the wide receivers, he asks his players what they want from plays. And Odell Beckham's like, coach said it's this game plan, and coach says it's that game plan. You know, God, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I was going to give a cliche, like the millennials don't like being told what to do kind of conversation. Point is, I want a collaborative young coach. You look at the best coaches that I love in the NFL. Other than Bill Belichick's the outlier. I don't want a Bill Belichick because I think it's impossible. Like, Matt Patricia's trying to be Bill Belichick, and he's not being Bill Belichick. Mike Vrabel, a little bit, is trying to be Belichick, and it's not working at all, okay? They're not buying in. It's not happening. Shurmur, a little bit, is a throwback coach where he has his course of action, and he doesn't ask the players what they should be doing. So if I were Pat Shurmur, he's going to continue to get these kind of jabs and these passive-aggressive remarks from Beckham. You have either two things you can do if you're Pat Shurmur. First thing you could do is you can actually communicate with this guy. If he doesn't communicate with you then, this is plan 2, you get rid of Odell Beckham before your ass is toast. Because Odell Beckham's throwing, he's throwing shade at you. To quote the title, Odell Beckham is constantly nipping at your heels every single day. And it's not working. And this team is not working. And Eli Manning, I could criticize him for his play, but his leadership skills do not match with an Odell Beckham. You need a Cam Newton type of leader. You need a guy like a Deshaun Watson or a Baker Mayfield that is going to go right to Odell and that's going to kind of take care of Odell, or is at least going to communicate with Odell Beckham. You got to seek him out. And Eli Manning is not... Eli Manning is not the guy to confront Odell Beckham right now in this situation. But what Odell Beckham led us into is that Pat Shurmur does not get along with his players at all. There's no player collaboration. There's no Sean McVay. There's no Matt Nagy. There is no asking of the players, what do you prefer in this situation? And that's what I want to see in a head coach. I want to see the head coach go up to a player and ask the player, what do you want in this situation? What do you feel comfortable with? I want that collaboration. I want them together. That's the only way it's going to be successful. Or that is the way I would like to proceed. If I was a head coach, I'd be communicating with my guys all the time. I'd be like, what's a great play to call here? What do you love here? What do you love here? I like this play, but if you're uncomfortable with it, we're not going to run it. You need to have that back and forth with the guys. You need to respect these players. This team right now does not trust Pat Shurmur, or at least many people in this locker room do not trust Pat Shurmur. And I would not be surprised if the team came out there against the Chicago Bears when there's nothing to play for anymore in terms of playoffs, and the team mails it in and doesn't believe in Shurmur. We're going to learn a lot about Shurmur. Now, the thing is, Shurmur's getting another year, no doubt. And this team has made improvements, and there'll be changes made and more players coming in the offseason. All Dave Gettleman can do is continue to stack us with really good players. That's probably why in the first round we should probably take, a pass rusher I'd like. A dynamic linebacker that can cover, that is an all-over-the-field, inside kind of linebacker. I know we have B.J. Goodson, but Ogletree's not getting it done. And I would love like a Devin White, like a shoe-in kind of linebacker. That would be fantastic for us. And then I would like a really good guard to pair with Will Hernandez. Maybe Jamon Brown is getting the job done, but we also need a center. I think we need interior linemen. I would really love to see interior linemen. Now, I know Spencer Pulley's playing pretty well right now. And then, of course, we need another tackle because Chad Wheeler's not that good. And we can use Nate. But the thing is, in the NFL, when you have great interior linemen, it's easier for the quarterback to have a clean pocket, and that's all you need is a pocket. And you could get away with tackles that are not incredibly efficient. You look at the Browns are starting Greg Robinson, and they're still playing decently well. The Colts have had injuries at their tackle position, but the middle of their line with Quinn and Nelson is playing so freaking well that Andrew Luck's had a great pocket. So the interior of the offensive line is really important. Connor Williams was a problem, and Dallas got rid of Connor Williams for a couple of weeks, and they've played better by not having that rookie from Texas into that line. So Dave Gettleman just needs to continue to stack our team with talent so that eventually, when there is a coach that comes in, his prospects or the guys that he has, eyes on for the future can hopefully pan out. And BJ Hill has panned out. Now, I think that Solder's been not as good as I would have wanted him to be. He's playing a little bit better. Ogletree hasn't been very good. The Rams were right on Ogletree thus far. His coverage skills are terrible. Landon Collins is not consistently good in coverage. I am worried about him. I think that a team's going to outbid us on Landon Collins, and he's a good leader. But at the same time, I just don't know if he's incredibly talented right now at his role, if he's a tweener or not. But here's the thing. Giants fans should want next year with Pat Shurmur to be no excuses. If the Giants keep Eli Manning and Eli sucks next year, then Pat Shurmur is going to say he's going to blame it on the quarterback. And for Pat Shurmur, there is going to be a rookie quarterback that comes in to the fold. And the greatest thing for you to hang on to as a head coach is if you're able to take your rookie quarterback and you're able to groom the rookie quarterback, or like say the last 5 games of next season, like Herbert comes in and plays well under Shurmur, then we're all going to give Shurmur that extra time. You know what I mean? And we might waste a year. That's what I'm saying, is that if Shurmur were smart, he would continue to keep Eli Manning because then his job is kept. And then he makes a quarterback change and we all fall in love, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Osweiler 5-game stretch. And we're all sitting there and we're all saying that now Herbert is going to come in and Pat in this offense is going to click. And then we could end up getting burned completely with a shitty coach in Pat Shurmur. And that's not what I want to see happen. I want next year to be do or die for Pat. Like, I want next year, if this team does not make the playoffs, I want the guy gone. And then I would want a head coach that collaborates with the players, because Ben McAdoo was the worst player relation coach ever in the history, maybe, that I've ever watched football. He was just a stone cold jerk to the players, okay, to Eli, to everybody. Then, from the outside point of view, it's just my opinion. Then we have Pat Shurmur, who the players clearly are not buying into what he's saying, with what Odell is saying, for what Sterling is saying, from the game plan, from Saquon Barkley. You've seen inconsistent, terrible performances where the team has just not showed up under Pat Shurmur this year. You've seen just very inconsistent play, and that has to do with coaching, and that has to do with team morale and psychology. And right now, 3-8, and just some horrible performances to get you to 1-7. Where when you start 1-7, you can't win. You can't be successful. So it's going to depend. Can this team beat the Bears or the Colts? Can they compete in these games? Can they win? If it goes horribly down the stretch, the leash is going to be terrible on Pat Shurmur. Or the leash is going to be really tight for next season with Pat, and he might end up getting fired mid-season next year. And the way you got to proceed if you are John Mara right now is you have to continue to monitor young names in case this thing goes the way I'm predicting it to go, which right now I believe Pat Shurmur's going to get fired next year, and that would not be the worst thing. The one guy that I think can bring stability to the organization, I have a couple of names. I think one guy who I think is a great communicator, And I think that a guy that has a really great personality, and I want a personality that's young, like an infectious personality, like a Matt Nagy or Sean McVay. Even Shanahan, to a degree, has a great connection with his players, like liking Lil Wayne, connecting to the younger generation. And Kevin O'Connell, to me, is going to be that guy that I think is just a wonderful personality to bring it to the facility. Shane Waldron's a brilliant, really good coach, right? Shane Waldron. But he really does not. I worry about his ability to get along with players a lot. And he might end up being very like Belichickian, or I don't really, he's just nerdy, and he doesn't have that presence that I really worry about, okay? And I love talking coaches, okay? I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So Kevin O'Connell's a guy that I've looked at for a while, and he seems like a guy that's incredibly infectious. Like, he seems confident. He seems very, very likable. And he's been around McVay and Jay Gruden, and he'll run a pro style, and he seems like he's going to be a star. He seems like he's going to be the next great coach in this league. Then from the college ranks, you have Cliff Kingsbury, who players like a lot, who is a decent who's a really good offensive mind, and then you have Mark Helfrich as well, who both are really good guys by some accounts. I know Baker Mayfield didn't get along with Kingsbury. But those are just some names, Waldron. And the fact is, we're going to be still getting, right now, we're still going to be waiting on guys. But the good news is O'Connell is not going to be we're probably not going to see O'Connell getting elevated yet. So you have to look for 2 years down the line what guys are going to be available. And the Rams guys are all probably going to leave. Like Zach Taylor's going to leave. DeFilippo's a nice guy. I like DeFilippo a lot. I just don't see him fitting with the Giants. I think we've been down that path with Pat Shurmur. There's something about, the Philadelphia Eagles connection that is just kind of snake bitten our team as of late. And people are going to emerge. People are going to emerge in the situation. But that's just my thought on Pat. I'm really worried about Pat Shurmur in a lot of different areas. I'm worried about how he communicates with his players. That's the main point of this video, is that Pat Shurmur right now is really just not communicating with his players, and there's no collaboration going on. And that's something that could get you fired as a coach, and you need your players to buy into what you're doing. And he makes no effort to reach out to Odell, to reach out to Sterling and Eli. And there's really no effort in collaborating together and coming up with a plan together, in talking about the game plan and getting on the same page. And it's clear that Odell doesn't trust this coaching staff, and there's good reason, and this team doesn't trust the coaching staff. And, the thing is that, again, Odell is kind of a problem. And for the next coach, I wouldn't mind seeing Odell go, and I wouldn't mind flipping Odell for picks. And I've been pretty firm on that front as well. He didn't even have that many yards against the Eagles secondary. So again, who knows if Drew Lock is going to be here next year or Herbert. I would take both of those quarterbacks. I would get excited about both of those guys. Because Drew Lock has great ability. Justin Herbert as well has great ability. And, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the heck happens in New York. I'll tell you that much, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.